Alright, so today I want to show you some of my Ball Python hatchlings that I produced this year. And these are the ones that I recently posted over on Morph Market for sale. So if you're interested, I'll post a link underneath this video to my Morph Market store, and you can go over there and check out what I have. But keep in mind, a lot of times my snakes over there sell within 2 to 3 weeks. So if you're actually looking at this video like more than 3 weeks after I posted, I can almost guarantee I'll probably have completely different snakes over there. Or if you kind of catch me in the off season, I might not have any snakes over on Morph Market. So it really varies depending on the time of the year. And one of the reasons I like to do this is I like to go through all my hatchlings that I produce every year. As a matter of fact, I actually produced 99 hatchlings this year, which is probably the second best year that I've ever had. And I actually like to take just sections of those snakes. So I'll just show you a few snakes today, and we'll look at them in detail. We'll look at the belly patterns and all the, see if they have any unusual colors or patterns in them. And that way I'll have a video record of all of my hatchlings. And in the future, if I find some unusual gene that has like a certain marker or something, a lot of times I can go back in my video log here on YouTube and look up some of the other hatchlings that I produced. And a lot of times I can actually track down the people that bought them and let them know that there's possibly another gene. That's actually happened before, where as a matter of fact, I actually sold one snake, and I found out later on that a lot of people were commenting, hey, I think this other gene is in that snake. And then I tell the customer, hey, I think you bought this other gene that may be in my collection that I don't know about. Another reason I wanted to produce this video is I actually have some banana and coral glow combinations, and for some reason I just cannot capture the beauty of these coral glows and bananas in a photograph and put it over on Morph Market. So I wanted to show you how beautiful some of these snakes are here in the video. As a matter of fact, I might do a screenshot of the video and replace the one over on Morph Market. And let me tell you, trying to get an accurate picture of snakes to post over there is pretty challenging. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start pulling out snakes, and I want to show you in detail some of the colors and patterns and maybe some of the temperament of some of these Ball Python hatchlings. Alright, so I'm going to start with this snake. So take a look at this beauty. This is Chomper. Chomper is Bobby's grandson. He is a bamboo calico, possible het desert ghost. As a matter of fact, I think he might be 50% het desert ghost. And this specific line of bamboo is a really super high contrast that comes from Bobby. All my bamboos are really bright. As a matter of fact, I've been to some reptile shows where people have bamboos, and a lot of times those bamboos are kind of grayed out compared to this line of bamboo, which is pretty interesting. Seems like all of Bobby's hatchlings are, as a matter of fact, Bobby produced one hatchling like 3 years ago that was kind of that same washed out, which is kind of unusual. It's like, where did this hatchling come from? Because it came from the Bobby line, but it really didn't look as bright as all the other hatchlings, like maybe 1 in 100, just not high contrast, which is kind of weird that I produced that one. So as far as this one has the calico in it, and the calico and the bamboo, a lot of times it'll start as like a low white on the side, almost like a grayed out side with some white coming up. As it ages and matures, it'll actually really increase the white and the brightness. It'll get super, super bright and high contrast. They can really trick you from when they're young to when they're older. So this is a pretty interesting snake. Usually the bamboos have a clear belly, nothing unusual there. Seems like he has a pretty good temperament, even though his name is Chomper. I just pulled the name out of the jar. I don't really like pick it for the attitude or anything. It seems like he's pretty good. Of course, he's a hatchling. He's used to only seeing like rats and frozen mice going in the tub, the frozen thawed and stuff like that. So, but it seems like he's doing pretty good. I don't really see anything unusual. I like to look for kinks. I haven't seen kinks in any of my, I've never had a snake with, a defect in the spine or anything like that. I always like to look for kinks. Usually the bamboos will have hearts on the side. Then you add the calico. That's one of the signs you can tell that the calico, it kind of wipes out all the heart patterns and kind of streaks it out. And let me tell you, this is one of my favorite combinations. When they get older, they can look really super amazing when that white really comes in on the side of the adult calico. It seems like he's a little bit head shy, but no really paradoxing or anything. Sometimes you'll see like the little, like a bright orange pizza stain on some of these. I don't really see anything like that. Looks like he's got both eyes, a good mouth, good head. No genetic defects. I haven't seen any genetic defects in any of my snakes at all, so that's a good thing. So he's a nice looking little bamboo calico possible het desert ghost. All right, so take a look at this beauty. This is Chip, and Chip is a male blue-eyed leucistic. This is actually one of Bobby's grandsons again. So this is actually the same snake as the last one. This is actually a bamboo calico. Well, it's possible calico, but this also has the lesser in it. So when you have the bamboo and the lesser, you end up producing an all white snake. So there's a 50% chance that this one contains the calico gene, but you really can't see it in this snake. And sometimes it can actually trick you, because if you actually look really close, you can almost see a little bit of what looks like a calico coming through on these. But pretty much every single one, calico or not, with the bamboo and the lesser, almost has that same exact pattern. So I'd say you really can't tell for sure if this one has calico in it. And the interesting thing about these is when you add the bamboo and the lesser, you end up with this really faint yellow line right down the top of the snake. And in some blue-eyed leucistics, you don't get that yellow line at all, which is pretty interesting. Another thing you want to look at with this guy is the eyes, the size of the eyes. You always want to look at that with your blue-eyed leucistics. And sometimes you'll get the big bug eyes, and sometimes you'll get micro eyes. And I'd say normally on these bamboo lessers, I'd say normally they have perfectly sized eyes. Like this one has, if I can actually get his face up to the camera, you can actually see he has almost, I'd say, a perfectly sized eyes, the size of a normal ball python. I actually held one of these back, a male that I tried to breed last year, but I think it was a little too early because he didn't really produce anything. I should have had a cleanup male after that one, but he has slightly micro eyes, slightly smaller eyes on the same exact combo, which is pretty interesting. We can look at the, for kinks or anything, no kinks at all. Really beautiful snake. That is Chip. All right, so take a look at this girl. This girl's name is Stormy. She is a female calico lesser. Interesting combination between the lesser and the calico. So the lesser really brightens the snake, brings in a lot of yellow. As a matter of fact, some of my lessers are really super bright. And then the calico, my version of calico actually acts as a dark gene. So you can see it really darkens the background of this, giving it a really nice contrast between the yellows and the dark. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually surprised I still have the snake, because about 4 or 5 people asked how much shipping was on the snake. I thought for sure I was going to sell it by now, but no one has committed to buying this snake. So this one is one of the more, I'd say this is the most popular by far as far as people asking about this snake. It's a really beautiful snake. And as far as most lessers, I'd say most lessers have a completely clear belly and no kinks. I always want to check for kinks in every single hatchling. As a matter of fact, I was at a reptile show. I was looking at a snake. I almost bought it, and I found a kink after it unballed and kind of opened up, and the breeder didn't even know about it. He didn't look through all his hatchlings to check for kinks. So you definitely want to check for kinks or any deformities in the eyes or anything. The eyes, whoa, very head shy. Not used to being handled that much, very head shy, but she'll get used to it. And a lot of these hatchlings, they're kind of squirrely, not really used to being handled, but let me tell you, it only takes like 5 minutes and they'll completely change and calm down. So that is Stormy. Really good looking snake. I'm sure she's gonna sell really fast. All right, so here is Sparky. Sparky is a female calico. So this is what the calico looks like just by itself. And look at how dark the calico is. And keep in mind, everything in my collection that is calico or possible calico, like the blue leucistic, it's also possible het desert ghost. As a matter of fact, someone said that they proved out that my the parent was actually het desert ghost. So these would actually be 50% het desert ghost if that definitely is the case which is pretty wild. So you can actually see a lot of white coming up the sides. That's pretty characteristic of your calico. A lot of times the calico can really vary. Sometimes they're really bright yellow, sometimes they're really dark, and sometimes they can bring in like a really coppery color like you see with a lot of my calicos. And this one, for some reason, she's been a little bit finicky getting over to frozen thawed. She's finally over on frozen thawed now, but it took her a while to go from the live mice over to frozen thawed. So this one's only had 4 meals, but the last meal she had was actually a frozen thawed mouse, so it wasn't too bad. She's like, look at that, she's like trained her eyes on me. She's like ready to take my nose off, which is kind of interesting on this girl. She didn't really snap or hiss or anything when I took her out of the tub, but sometimes they can kind of get in that mode where they're like kind of a defensive mode. You know, like hatchlings are, they're kind of, you know, they don't know how to act at this age. You have to really handle them gently to kind of tame them down and train them that you're not a threat. So this one looks really good. One little piece of stuck shed right there. Look at that. All right. No, I haven't had any stuck sheds at all in any of my hatchlings, which is nice. Oh, as a matter of fact, I actually had one out of all 100 hatchlings that had a stuck shed once, and I actually increased my humidity here in my reptile room. It just kind of bumped it up a little. I have a whole room humidifier and haven't had any problems since. You can actually see some of the gray line coming through that you'll see in a lot of your combinations. Really interesting. A little bit on the belly on just the calico, if you can actually see that. Just a little tiny bit here and there. A little bit of color, not quite completely clear. Really good looking line of calico. Probably one of the best that I've seen. It's kind of almost like a dark gene by itself. So if you're working with dark and you want to add a dark to a dark, let me tell you, this calico would be the way to go. Especially if you had like really dark with like a really high white coming up. As the age of mature, it really brightens up the white. And if you had like a double dark with the white, like if you mix this with like a GHI or something, I think it would be pretty awesome. Or like with a blackhead, it would be a pretty awesome combination. All right, so take a look at this girl. Her name is Meatball. This is another calico possible het desert ghost female. Looking pretty good. Basically exactly the same as the last one, except this girl has had 9 meals. She's quite a bit bigger. And a lot of times it really depends on how quickly they can transition from the live mouse hoppers over to a frozen thawed mouse. So, you know, live mouse hoppers trying to feed, you know, 100 snakes, live mouse hoppers, you know, a lot of times you're just waiting for the mouse hoppers to mature so you can feed it to your snakes. Versus like a frozen thawed mice, you just have them in your freezer, and once they transition, you can just keep feeding more frequently, and that's why they get kind of a better start as far as kind of jumping the gun. A lot of times you see some smaller hatchlings, and it doesn't really matter as long as they're on like a frozen thawed mouse, because let me tell you, they can catch up really quick, so it's not really a problem. This girl is really, seems like she's a lot tamer than a lot of my hatchlings, which is interesting. Looking really good, really big and beefy. I can't believe how big she is already. No kinks at all. She doesn't seem as head shy as the other ones. Look at that. This is a pretty nice girl right here. Let's take a look at her belly. She's got some almost like bright orange spots. I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera, but she's got some interesting bright orange spots here and there, right along her belly, like right in here. Kind of interesting. Looks like just the regular dark calico with kind of the tarnished penny look, I guess you'd call it, as far as kind of the kind of the bronze look, the coppery look on the side of the snake. Really good looking hatchling. All right, so here is Beast. Beast is a banana. Take a look at how beautiful the banana is. This is the first time I isolated the banana from my banana inchy clown that produced this. So this guy is 100% het clown. This guy is also possible pastel. I'm not 100% sure how to tell if a banana has pastel in it. I thought the lighter ones were pastel, but this one's super bright yellow. I don't know. Maybe it's the bright yellow ones that are the pastel. I just put possible pastel. Sometimes if they have really jumbled up patterns where, you know, you kind of get that with your pastels, then I say, you know, more likely this could be a pastel, but I'm not 100% sure because the banana is so visually dominant. Sometimes with some of the other genes that just change the color mainly, sometimes it's hard to tell if they're in there. This guy's also a male and a male maker. So if you breed this to something else, all the banana offspring will come out as males. I'd say probably 99 out of 100 of your banana offspring will be males. I actually hit a female this year from a male maker, which is really unusual. It was actually a banana pinstripe female, 100% head clown, that I'm holding back as a future breeder, which is pretty awesome. And then from that one, I can actually produce female makers, which is pretty awesome here in a few years probably. So that is beast, really good looking snake. And keep in mind, these really change as they age and mature. So you see little tiny spots here. They'll actually get more and more freckles as they get older, and they'll actually turn into kind of a two-tone orange instead of kind of a yellow on top of a lavender. So they can really change in appearance, but that's a pretty awesome hatchling. All right, so take a look at this girl. Her name is Electra. Electra is not on Morph Market yet. So this girl is actually a pastel female, 100% het clown. And I haven't posted her over on Morph Market because she was stuck on live mouse hoppers for a long time. And just recently, I finally got her over to frozen thawed mice. She's actually eaten 4 frozen thawed mice. So I thought I'd throw in this video. I think she is ready to go. She's like one of the earlier clutches. She's pretty small for one of the earlier clutches, but still doing pretty good. They can catch up really quick. So let's take a look at her, stretch her out a little bit. She's looking a little feisty. It's kind of giving me the, she doesn't know if I'm a rat or what is going on. Usually these hatchlings get a little bit confused. All right, buddy, I'm not gonna hurt you. All right, let's stretch her out, take a look. She's got some really beautiful colors. So the het clown actually increases the brightness of pretty much everything. So this is a lot brighter than some of your pastels just because of the influence of the het clown. It has some interesting highlights along the top, kind of a jumbled up pattern. That's kind of a giveaway if you actually have the pastel in the core glow. You'll actually see a pattern kind of like this in the core glows, and then you know for sure you'll actually have pastel if you see a pattern like that in your bananas or core glows. This girl's looking really good. Usually your pastels have a pretty clear belly. Looking pretty good. So this one is just 100% het clown. No other hets as far as I know. Sometimes even in the het pieds, even on your pastels, sometimes you can see tracks down the belly, like right down by the vent, like someone took a Sharpie and made marks. But this one is not het pied. It is just 100% het clown. Good looking snake right there. All right, so here is Pee-wee. Pee-wee is a coral glow, which is just a different line of pretty much the same thing as the banana. A lot of people think the bananas and the coral glows are the same. This is also possible pastel. 50% het pied on this guy. Looking really good. And these core glows and bananas are really super visually dominant, so they pretty much cover up a lot of the other genes. You know, it's really hard to tell if there's pastel in there or not. This one seems like it has a little bit more freckling. Looks it's a pretty good sized snake. This one's from one of my earlier clutches, which is pretty good. The head is pretty light. Sometimes I think on some of them you can actually see the pastel in there from having a lighter head, although I don't know if you can tell in these bananas and core glows. This guy's a really good looking snake. He's a male and a male maker. All right, so here is Pasta. Pasta is a male core glow, 50% het pied, a male and a male maker. You can kind of see in this one, has a little bit darker of a head than that other one, and has a completely different kind of a pattern too, which is kind of interesting. I don't know, it seems like it has the pattern of a pastel with some of the highlights you'd see in a pastel, but I always thought the pastels had lighter heads than the non-pastels, so I don't know about this one. I also have kind of that Dinker gene floating around here in my collection, which is kind of a jumbled up dark gene, which could possibly be in this one. Although, even with that gene, I think it's hard to tell for sure exactly what's going on. Sometimes these coral glows can be really variable. But this guy's looking really good. Let's see, pretty clear belly. Another thing you want to check on these is to make sure they don't have any blockage right where the umbilical cord was. I actually had one snake with this big, round, huge blockage. And I brought it to the vet. They had to pull the blockage out. And they actually had to put stitches in the belly of the snake, which is pretty crazy. That guy is looking really good. Really unusual looking. Almost looks like there is something else in there, even besides pastel, which is pretty interesting. All right, so here is Beast. Beast is another male coral glow male maker, possible pastel from that same clutch. Looking really good. This one, I don't think there's pastel on this one. Has a more of a repeating pattern. I'll take a look at the head. Head's not quite as light as you'd see in some of the other ones, although I could be wrong. That's why I put possible pastel on all these. Looking pretty good. Let's kind of stretch them out and see if he'll stretch out a little bit. Looking really good. No kinks or anything. I just probed him, double checked. He is definitely a male this year. And let me tell you, if I see any females in my coral glows or bananas, I'm definitely holding those back as future breeders. That guy looks pretty awesome. All right, so take a look at this one. This is Slayer. Slayer is another coral glow, but this time it actually has the pinstripe and the pastel. And this one, I'm 100% certain that it has pastel in it. And the reason you can tell is when you actually mix pastel with pinstripe, you get this really jumbled up pattern, really kind of a reduced pattern, kind of the pattern of a lemon blast. If you actually produce a pinstripe with the coral glow, what you'll actually get is kind of like the scrunched up alien head pattern that you'd see in the pinstripe. But when you add pastel, yeah, for sure on this one, you can definitely tell. If you actually look at the head, I don't know if you can tell on the head on this one because it has the pinstripe in there, which could kind of change it too. So I don't know. On the other ones, I don't know. It's your guess is as good as mine on some of those possible pastels, but on this one, I'm 100% sure. So this is actually a coral glow, pastel, pinstripe, 50% het pied on this one. Really beautiful, really powerful breeder. And all these are male makers. Every single one in my whole collection, they're all males and they're all male makers. All right, so here's one that I actually sold already. This is Porky. Porky is a female 100% het clown. And it's interesting what the het clown does. It really brightens the snake. And a lot of times it'll actually bring up a lot of the white around the bottoms of the alien heads on these normals, which is pretty cool. This one has an interesting belly pattern. If you look at the belly, look at all the pattern all along the belly, which is kind of interesting. Doing really good. I always want to check for kinks. No kinks on this one. Doing really good. This guy is doing fantastic. There's your snake. I'll be shipping this one out on Tuesday for a Wednesday delivery. All right, so here's another snake that I don't actually have over on Morph Market yet, but by the time you watch this video, I might actually have her over there. This girl's name is Bones. Bones is an Enchi female, 100% het clown. So this Enchi actually came from that banana Enchi clown. And I think the het clown really brightens it, which is pretty cool. And sometimes the Enchi can kind of tricky because up here it doesn't really look like it's Enchi until you look kind of down here where it's reduced. You can definitely tell it's reduced way down here like your typical Enchi. Definitely see the Enchi towards the tail. And usually the Enchi you can tell from kind of the line that widens towards the back of the head, right on the head. Let's see about the belly. Let's see, got a little bit of pattern on the belly on the Enchi. It's a lighter pattern, which is pretty interesting. Haven't really looked at the belly on this one yet. Nice looking snake. Let's see. I need a good picture for Morph Market. So let's see. How about that right there? Put that over on Morph Market. That looks pretty good. All right, so take a look at this big girl. This girl's name is Bigfoot. Big enough to be Bigfoot. She is listed over on Morph Market. This is another inchy, 100% het clown female. And this one is definitely a lot more reduced than the last one. It's interesting. Sometimes the inchies can be more or less reduced even within the same line of inchies. So this all came from the inchy line in my banana inchy clown. And some inchies, as a matter of fact, some lines of inchies almost look like super inchies. I've actually seen super inchies that have almost no pattern, like little tiny dots. I don't really like it that reduced. I like a little bit of pattern reduction. And a lot of times the inchy will actually bring out a lot of yellows in a lot of your combinations. So the inchy can bring out the yellows, and the het clowns can really brighten them too. So that's this girl, inchy and het clown, looking really good. There's the belly on this girl, kind of the same as the other one. Looking good. She's kind of eyeing me. You know, a lot of times when the hatchlings, they kind of look like that, like they think you're a rat or something. What I like to do is I like to come up under the head. It seems like to tame down a hatchling, kind of the trick that I use is to put my finger right under the head and kind of just barely touch the chin. And if you kind of keep your hand and your finger right on the chin of the hatchling, it usually really tames them down. Especially if you kind of see her head's kind of cocked like that. And they can kind of get confused, especially at this age when they're not handled a lot and they're used to, you know, just eating the whatever jumps in the tub. Sometimes they can be a little bit confused. But usually just holding their head just like that really tames them down a lot. This girl looks really good. Look at the pattern on the side. Really nice reduced pattern on this one. Let's take a look at this. These inchies are beautiful. One of my favorite genes. Inchy goes well with anything to reduce the pattern and really brighten it. Especially if you have a good line of inchy that really brightens. It's hard to tell on this one if it's brightening from the inchy or if it's brightening from the het clown. But that's a really good looking snake right there. She's really getting big too. Alright, so here's the last one I want to show you. This guy's name is Hissy. Although Hissy has never hissed at me, he is a good snake. It seems like all the corgos and bananas, it seems like they're a lot more friendly than some of the other ones. They're not really as snappy, or they never really hiss at me, which I've actually heard some people say just the opposite, which is kind of interesting. I guess it depends on your collection. But this one, this is actually just a banana, 100% het clown. It's a male and a male maker. And kind of the interesting thing about this one is it seems like this one has more orange than any of my other corglos and bananas. You'll actually see all these highlights up on top that are orange. A lot more orange up in the pattern. It seems like a brighter orange in this guy, which is pretty interesting. Take a look for kinks here. No problems at all with this guy that I can see. The bellies are usually clear on these guys. Pretty regular repeating pattern. Nice looking snake. Alright, so those are my snakes that I'll have posted over on Morph Market. For this batch, I think I have like 50 or 60 more that I might post over there. So I'm definitely going to make some more videos like this of some of the snakes that I post over on Morph Market. This guy doesn't seem to be as head shy as the other one. It's super friendly. It seems like all these bananas and corglos really super friendly and not really that head shy, which is pretty interesting. Alright guys, thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.